Hello and welcome to this interview with Jason Dudley. My name's Pauline Grace and I'm the Masters Programme Leader for Youth and Community Work at Newman University in Birmingham. And Jason, can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Jason Dudley. I'm a youth and community worker from an organisation called Base 25, which is a charity in Wolverhampton that works with children and young people up to the age of 25. We offer counselling and youth work interventions across a range of projects, working across a range of different things.
Brilliant. And how long have you worked there, Jason?
Oh my gosh, I've been working there for just over 20 years.
No!
And yeah, absolutely. Base 25 was my first youth work placement from university.
Wow.
And because of the work I was introduced to, I love the organisation so much that I ended up getting a job there. And I've just sort of gone through the ranks and developed and honed my practice
Brilliant.
over many years. Yeah.
Great. And so obviously we're talking because we're in this age of COVID-19 and it's turned the world upside down. And especially that of youth work, because we're a particularly face-to-face kind of focused operation. Can you tell us how COVID-19 has affected your work and what you do and your response to it?
Of course. I think it was one of those things that just kind of hit us all very quickly. And as an organisation, it was almost as though we had a week or a few days kind of to very quickly get to grips with how are we going to respond to the government advice in terms of the pandemic. Because obviously we work with over 5,000 young people a year. And at any one time, we're delivering work in schools, out and about in the community, and we've got a broad range of specialised services. And we're working with a high number of young people who are at risk. So we very quickly have to think about how we transition our services. Base 25, we are a charity. We're probably the largest independent young people's charity in Wolverhampton. However, I think nothing can kind of prepare you for the gravitas of a pandemic like this. But we very quickly moved a lot of our services online.
Right. And
I think that within 2 days, we literally moved 60% of those young people that we were working with at that time when the pandemic started, to working with them online or via telephone, which was a phenomenal thing. I think that, if we'd have organised, as an organisation, had planned to kind of use these sorts of tools and mediums such as, Zoom and FaceTime and whatnot, it would have taken 18 months to transition the organisation into doing that. But, within 2 days, we've got things pretty much up and running. But then we were then looking at, as an organisation, we've just got a contract to deliver, preparation for the half-term activities in terms of detached youth work. And most things had shut down, but we were saying, well, hang on a minute, how can youth work be effective in terms of responding to some of the issues and needs that young people are now facing in terms of this pandemic? So we spoke to the local authority, and very quickly, again within a week, we had youth workers out on the ground, sort of promoting public health messages, engaging young people who are out and about, and also just kind of identifying and supporting young people that had nowhere else to go and who were in particular at risk.
So you've moved to a digital platform, but you've also recognised that there's still a necessity for some street-based work. So are you doing detached youth work at the moment?
Yeah, we haven't stopped since the start of the pandemic. We pretty much hit the ground running. I mean, it was really weird because normally, because we promote a lot of our work through social media as well. Although we've been doing that a lot more since the pandemic started, and we've seen some major spikes in our sort of online activity because we've had to kind of promote our work in that way. So we've had to get quite savvy in terms of the digital world. But whereas we'd normally go and say, to do our detached youth work, encouraging people to use some of the safe spaces like parks and things like that and delivering activities, actually going out there and saying to people, no, you can't meet, you can't use these spaces. So we were given a different message. But I think where it was effective was because we were needing to liaise with the police quite often in terms of being out and about and in terms of reported incidents. But what we found was the only powers that the police got to move young people on were to kind of enforce outgoes or cautions. And to be fair, the police didn't want to do that. So what seemed to be a better solution was that, to use highly trained youth workers to go out that can engage young people, to promote these messages, to promote a form of informal education around, something that was unprecedented in some respects.
Sure.
And to be able to kind of support young people to make some really, positive changes around and, challenges that we were facing. And we found we did that very well. What we did find was that there was lots of reports of young people, but when we went out, they weren't actually young people. They were adult drinkers wearing hoods, but that perception from afar was often that young people were committing, antisocial behaviour. And so we was almost running another campaign underneath this to say, young people aren't flaunting the world necessarily.
No.
You've got to get close enough to the, to see what the issues are. And the issues were often that there was homeless people or street drinkers. Or people wearing hoods that has almost become a symbol of,
youth.
Of youth. And that's not the case,
Wow. So if you've not stopped doing your detached work, your street-based work, then what kind of things did you have to think about in terms of protecting the workers and making kind of adaptations to risk assessments and things like that?
Yeah, of course. I think one of the things that all of our staff, we sort of briefed around PPE and sort of the rules around how we needed to adapt our ways of working in terms of dynamic risk assessment, probably.
Yeah.
Initially when we went out, it was predominantly the senior management team that went out doing the detached youth work. So there was almost doing the risk assessment in a very dynamic way.
That's interesting, yeah.
But also it was the senior management team who were the most experienced youth workers. So we went out, we started to assess. I think where we found it difficult was normally we would spend a lot of time mapping the routes, getting out there, becoming known in these areas. But because of the magnitude of the pandemic, when we were liaising with the police, we was often getting a list of where the police felt it would be good to go. So we didn't necessarily have that time to build that rapport in that area. So whereas we'd go out and we'd show a presence and we'd build that presence and we'd build them links, we was almost having to do it cold, if you like. So we were going out, delivering a dynamic risk assessment, engaging within that space, but being really aware of our surroundings. And if we didn't feel safe to engage, we didn't engage.
Sure.
It would just be a hello, we're out and about and off we go. But through the work, we did actually engage a number of young people that we identified who were in violent relationships that were at risk and had nowhere to go. And we were able to put that support and intervention in as it was needed. So it was really worthwhile doing that. But also, you see a couple of young kids smoking and passing from one to the other. So we're then having to talk to them about, you do realise. But the sorts of things that, they probably do regularly and they just do their thinking. But we were able to put that informal advice in there, and sort of start a dialogue around what's going on in the world, getting their views and their experiences, but also doing some awareness raising around some of the risks as well.
Brilliant. And that whole idea of being in a space where young people already are, because they were already there, and especially, I guess, those vulnerable young people that you've identified. Because if you hadn't have identified and engaged with them, who would have?
Absolutely. And I think, we're potentially seeing a problem with a lot of invisible issues for those young people that, home might not be a safe place when they're not in school or they're not in these other sort of contexts where they can keep themselves safe, they're at risk. But also in terms of young people who are probably more online at home there's that invisible risk of then it's not until sort of post-pandemic or when things start to return that these issues are going to be identified.
Sure.
And, you know, that's when youth work can be most effective, because I think there's a current trend for counselling as a solution to a lot of the post-pandemic issues with young people. And I think that is part of the solution. But those that are best placed to be working with young people are youth workers, you know, and that needs to be at the forefront of any solution to some of the post-pandemic issues pertaining to young people.
I love that you're already talking post-pandemic. And have you as an organisation thought about, have you learned anything about the way that you operate, or have you taken anything from the way that you've worked now and you're looking at maybe including that in the future?
I think the beauty of our profession in terms of youth work is we're always critically reflecting on our approach, our work, our experience, and we're using that continually to kind of shape how we move forward. I think at the start of all of this, we were thinking, how can youth work be a solution? Where we're at now is we're thinking, what have we learned and how do we use that moving forward? And we have a whole collection of stories from workers, from young people about their experiences. But there's also a magnitude of young people that we've not been able to reach, that will have been affected, and we need their stories to help shape how we move forward.
Sure.
And we're best placed to kind of capture them stories and to use that. It can't just be top down. This is how the post-pandemic Britain is going to look. We need to be talking to young people, getting young people involved. I mean, we're already seeing lots of tensions in the world, as you know, people have been cooped up, and things have been amplified in terms of people's feelings. But on top of that, we've got young people that are going to be more isolated, more anxious, more depressed, and scared about what post-pandemic is going to look like.
Sure.
So we need to kind of be working with them around the real risks, but also supporting them that, you know, quality of life is important, and we need to be exploring how we make the most of things moving forward, whether that be our own interests, our activities, our leisure activities, our learning, because all these things are important.
Fantastic. Wow. That was really succinct and beautifully put. And, you know, I've always admired the work of Base 25 because it's been a long held organisation that works from, I guess, a person-centred way, a way that keeps the young person at the centre of everything that's going on. And everything that you've just discussed has illustrated that really well. Thank you so much for your time, Jason. Is there anything else you'd like to share in terms of COVID-19 and the work that you're doing? Or
I think organisations within the voluntary sector, such as Base 25, I think that we've all experienced lots of cuts over the years. There needs to be a major investment in voluntary service organisations. There needs to be a major investment in terms of youth work, youth service. It's been abolished. It needs to come back, because if it doesn't, all we're going to see is a lot of these issues intensifying in terms of young people.
Sure.
I think we need more people being trained in terms of youth work as a youth. You know, and I remember when I first went to university, I remember a lecturer called Andy Simpson. I don't know if you know Andy, but I remember Andy doing his big speech and telling us all how he was going to, you know, we would all be sort of breaking apart our lives and rebuilding it and having an awareness. But he also said, which I've always carried with me, whether you go on to be a police officer, whether you go on to be a teacher, whether you go on to whatever profession, that youth work training will hold you in good stead, because it's a philosophy, it's an approach, it's a profession. And it would be great to have police officers that are youth work trained. It would be great to have people in hospitals that are youth work trained. And post-pandemic, we need youth workers out there to kind of help transition young people back into the new world, as whatever that's going to look like, you know. and to then help shape it, you know, that's the important thing. And we need youth work to do that.
Brilliant. I think that's a great place to finish the interview. Thank you so much for your time. Cheers. Thanks.